Hey guys, it's Mike from That's Cool Vintage Collectibles, and one of the things I've collected very casually on the side for a few years are signed books. And anytime I get the chance to meet somebody that's written a book, or somebody that's doing a book signing, if I'm able to, I'll get a signed book and a signed copy of that, and just tuck that aside. So over here in my studio, I've got just a little stack of books back here that are mostly rock and roll signed books about a couple of actors. But there's one that's a little bit different from all of those, and we're going to talk about that today. I'll swing you around here, and we'll just grab this one. We're going to go to Alcatraz today on the show. Well, I really enjoyed visiting San Francisco when I was there in 2006, and this was how we got out to Alcatraz. First, we hopped one of the trolleys, got right downtown by the water, and then you go on the sort of ferry ship that runs you over to the island. And there's great panoramic views of the city, and you go out into the bay. It's pretty wild. Apparently, this is pretty shark-infested water around Alcatraz, so swimming was always a deterrent for anybody who escaped. But then eventually you catch sight of the island, and as you get closer, you start to see the prison, and it really is a daunting journey. If you were to swim this, it would take quite a lot to get back to shore. So for any of those that thought of escaping, this was pretty well a safe bet. You weren't getting too far. After you get off the ship out, you can walk around the grounds, and there's some guard towers and things you can look at. The building itself is, in need of a little bit of restoration work at that time anyway. But a lot of parts of it are crumbling and kind of starting to show some wear and tear. But it's pretty interesting to walk the grounds and look around it. It was really a difficult place to if you were to try to escape here, it would have been very, very difficult. There was some kind of indigenous occupation here on the island in the 1960s, but I don't really know the story about why that happened. So I'm a little vague on that part, but it was cool to see the outside and walk around and take a few minutes to do that. When we got inside, I have to say it was a very uneasy feeling. I was a little bit disturbed by it. It just felt very, very spooky. And there was, pictures of famous inmates who had been here, and you go through the cafeteria area and things like that. But the cells were extremely small and close together and jammed. And inmates were in their cells for 22 hours a day, I believe. And I just stood in one just to give you an idea of the size, and it's very small. And it's, certainly not very humane conditions, but they were also the worst criminals in the world that were out there, so there's that as well. But some of the more famous inmates have sort of a photo. This is Al Capone's cell. But it was pretty interesting to go through and to look at what things looked like. And these are solitary confinement cells, which were very small and would have been complete darkness when the doors were shut. And this is the hole where the famous escape took place, that 3 inmates did escape from Alcatraz. When we got finished touring the penitentiary and we were on our way out, there's a little sort of gift shop type idea, and there was an old fella sitting at a desk and not many people standing around, and I kind of didn't know what he was about. And I went over and I noticed that there was a book there in front of him. And this is a fellow by the name of Darwin Coon, and he was an inmate at Alcatraz and has written a book about his time at the penitentiary. He was there between 1959 and 1963 and was one of the last out when it was closed. So it was interesting to chat with him, and this is a guy that had a pretty shady past. He was a bank robber and ended up turning his life around, and now is telling his story to help try to keep people from breaking the law, and he's trying to make a living. So I bought his book and got him to sign it, and had a good chat with him for a few minutes, and it was just interesting to hear his perspective on one of the most notorious prisons in U.S. history, and he lived here for 4 years, so it was definitely a survival mode that he went into during this time. It was not an easy place to be, and he was there during the breakout that happened where the inmates did escape. He saw a lot of things here, and there was some real history that happened at this place. But to talk to somebody who lived through it and to actually have that moment was pretty interesting. And I was happy to support him in now that he's turned himself around. So it was definitely an interesting experience, and a piece for my collection that I never really thought I'd own. I certainly wasn't looking for it, but it's something now that's in the collection that I think is pretty interesting and a part of history. And I enjoy collecting history and things that are related to our history, and certainly Alcatraz is part of that. Well, I hope you enjoyed that walk through Alcatraz today. It was an interesting tour, and definitely something I'll never forget. And when you come into my collection room here in my studio, there's an awful lot of things that people notice, but the little spine of this book on the shelf is not one of them normally. So I thought I'd do it just a little feature on that today. And if you get a chance, it's a great read actually, and it's pretty amazing, and a bit of a human survival story, which is pretty interesting too. And to be able to kind of put that together with a personal experience is one of the reasons I like to collect things. And it's maybe a bit of an odd thing as a souvenir, but certainly a very authentic thing. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed that. If you're new to the channel, we look at all kinds of collectibles, whether it's rock and roll memorabilia, records, sports memorabilia, vintage instruments, pop culture, antiques, and more. And sometimes, like today, we're just talking about history and even signed books. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed that, and hope to see you again down the road. Keep on collecting.